And greetings everyone. This is Bob Petrie again with part 4 of the True Messiah. Who is he? And I need to move fast on this because we have a lot of things to cover. So in part 4, let's continue on with the question, what does John mean by using the term the Word? What was the source of John's teaching and evangel? Well, remember, John is writing what he was taught by the Messiah himself. The Messiah showed him in the law, in the prophets, and the writings where this information was. When he wrote the first part of chapter of John, he wasn't talking about ethereal things about the Messiah or the Word was such and such in the great time past that we don't know about. He was talking specifically about what you could literally see in the law, in the prophets and the writings. And it says clearly, beginning then with Moses, the law, and going through all the prophets, he explained to them everything in the sacred writings which referred to himself. So that's where John got his information. And if he got it there after being shown by the Messiah, you should be able to see it there after being shown what the Messiah had told his disciples. What then is the Word? John presented the answer in one of his other books, the book of Revelation or Apocalypsis in Greek. 4 times John tells us the Word which is written in the law, in the prophets, and the writings. Let's see, we're going to look at Revelation 1:8 and verse 11 also, chapter 21:6 and 22:13. So, let's take a look. Here is, well, we have to go back a little bit. This is Revelation 1, says, verse 8, I am Alpha and Omega. In verse 11 it says, I am Alpha and Omega. As you notice in the King James it's spelled out, but in some texts you will find that it's not spelled out. You have the actual letters themselves there, Alpha and Omega, in the text itself. Anyway, let's move on and see what this looks like in a modern translation, because I want to show you something very, very interesting, because many people are beginning to see this that never knew it before. They know what John was writing about when he said the Alpha and the Omega. It says here in this modern translation, I am the Alpha, Aleph, and Tau. Aleph, Tau. That is, in Greek, Alpha and Omega, but the Hebrew is, I am, in verse 11, the Aleph and the Tau. And there you will find out that's exactly what the case is when you start actually looking into this. Whoops, let me put this a bit wider. Let's see, chapter 21 and verse 6. And he says in the King James Version, again, I am Alpha and Omega. That's the English translation of the Greek, Alpha and the Omega. But let's look at it again in a modern translation. And you will see, just like I said, and they're doing correctly, verse 6, it is done, I am the Aleph and the Tau. That is, my friend, the Hebrew letters of a word that you can find in the prophets, in the law, and in the writings. Here in the King James Version, in Revelation 22, the 4th time that John uses it, it says here, I am the Alpha and the Omega. What does the modern translation say that I just mentioned to you? Look at this again. We'll make it wide for you. I am the Aleph and the Tau. So I'm not the only one that sees this, so don't think that that's the case. Now, where is this word and what is it? Let's take another look at a couple of things here. Number one, here's a comparison of the Hebrew and Greek alphabet. This is the Aleph, this is the Alpha. This is the Tau in Hebrew, this is the Omega, right? Aleph, Alpha, Tau, Omega. So this is exactly what John was saying. He was saying Alpha, but he was looking at the text near him that had the Aleph, and the Tau, and he wrote Omega because he wasn't writing that Hebrew at that time, or it certainly wasn't translated with the Hebrew letters. Now, let's go to the next point we want to make, and let me increase the size of this for you to see. This comes from Vincent's Word Studies about Alpha and Omega. See? Alpha, Omega. Ta Alpha, Chi, Ta, Omega. And notice here, the rabbinical writers used the phrase from Aleph to Tav or Tal to signify completely from beginning to end. Thus one says Adam transgressed the whole law from Aleph even to Tav. But here's the point. This is the Alpha and the Omega, which is the Aleph and Tal. Let's go on and take another look here at a little bit further. Here in the Hebrew alphabet, you see the Aleph. That's the first letter of the alphabet. And down here, you see what the Tal or the Tav looks like. Last letter and first letter. Now, when you see it in Genesis, you're going to find out something very interesting. First off, let's fit this up so you can see it bigger. Here's Genesis. Bereshith, first word. Bara, second word. Elohim, third word. Eighth. Look at that. Aleph, Tau. Aleph, Tau. That's the word. That's the word John was talking about in Revelation. That's the word John was talking about in John 1:1. And notice this. It is not translated but represented in translation by that. The reversed signs there, parentheses. Now let's go on and take another look at something here. Notice here, if we look at this in greater width, here is the Aleph Tau, Bereshith bara Elohim Aleph Tau. And it says down here in the margin, the Hebrew word Aleph Tau has no equivalent in English and is represented in the translation of the first chapter by this, parentheses. And notice here, the heavens, see the parentheses, and Wa'ath here, because it's repeated a second time here with a connector letter to it. Aleph Tau, Aleph Tau. This is, well, I won't get into what this represents, but this represents the Messiah here in the Old Testament, in the very first book of the law, first chapter, first verse. That's what John was saying you could see. Now let's look a little further real quickly. Here is the Hebrew of the first chapter. Bereshith, one word. Bara, two. Elohim, three. Fourth word. Aleph Tau, see that? Aleph Tau. Hashamayim is fifth word. Sixth word. Wa'ath. And Haaretz is the seventh word. 7 words in the first book of the law. 7 words. The 7 candlesticks, the 7 millennia, the 7 days of the beginning of creation, etc. We're going to show a lot of how this was represented. But see this? Right smack dab in the middle is the word Aleph Tau, Aleph Tav, that represents the Messiah. And if you will notice, here is the word Elohim, and here of Aleph Tau, the word representing the Messiah, and he is with, as John said, it is with, the word Aleph Tau is with Elohim. Now, you'll need to go back over this again pretty quick yourself to get it in there, all the things in there, if you want to get it stuck in your head, because I have to move on. So, if you'd like a copy of the early True Messiah, Who Is He? You can download your PDF copy of the book, The True Messiah, Who Is He? Coming soon in about a week to our website, 64prn.com. And that's it for now, friends. Thank you very much, and we'll see you coming up in part 5 on how to find the Aleph Tau in the law, the prophets, and the writings.